Just we're just going to start, and you've heard the announcement. We're going to record this meeting. We would like to ask you, for privacy reasons, to keep your cameras off. But if you want to ask a question, you can always unmute your mic or send us a chat. And we have one of our presenters is going to monitor that. So what you're in today for is a great treat, something we've been putting our heads together with our colleagues from Netherlands and Denmark here. We have, we'll go through introductions in a minute, but we really liked the work that our colleagues over in Europe have done with the risk canvas approach. So today we're going to discuss and hopefully share with you some tips and tricks about winning your business over by meeting their goals with this risk canvas approach. So this is about speaking a different language, which is the language of business. We will show you how, the practical approach. So just by way of introduction, we know that all of your businesses have had unprecedented disruption and competition. So it's on us, privacy, IT, and cybersecurity professionals, to find new ways to bridge that gap between our objectives, compliance, controls, and resilience, and meeting business goals. So business risk canvas or business canvas first was introduced as a strategic management template used to develop these new business models and documenting them in a way that they can actually be understood in little pieces. And you see who the author of that was in 2005, Alexander Osterwalder from Switzerland. And you're welcome to look this up. It's a very interesting concept that came out of research. Of course, it had to become practical, so that's what we're talking about today. The objectives are to introduce these key concepts of business and risk canvas, cultivate an understanding of a new risk approach and why we arrived at that, appreciate the human factors influencing the business model canvas, and highlight the importance of this new methodology to win with your business, to win in conversations, make yourselves heard. The agenda is exactly kind of as we discussed. We're going to do a bit of introduction. We're going to talk about the foundational concepts, then the new risk management approach, and then we're going to talk about some practical examples. And any questions that, of course, you can ask during or you can ask at the end. I am as you know, see here, Amalia Barthel. I have my own consulting company called Designing Privacy, but I'm also a frequent speaker, and I teach courses at the University of Toronto School of Continuing Studies. Alongside Alex, we've been teaching cybersecurity together, and I've created a certificate program for privacy. My passion was risk management until I bumped into privacy, and then that took over. So I guess I consult, I work, I advise in those two spaces, IT risk management and privacy. And I'll ask our colleagues from Europe to introduce themselves, Gilbert and then Vincent.
Okay, Gilbert van Zijl. I'm in the Netherlands, I'm in the south, and you have looked in my old house and office. It's 400-year-old monument. I have my own business since 11 years, and I'm working solely with small, medium enterprises for information security and privacy. And small, medium enterprises gives a certain vibe, and you have to be very pragmatic. So that is where the risk model canvas came up, to be pragmatic and to talk with these people. Before I was working in larger companies, I've been working in United Nations, large hospitals, and etc. The same. I leave it for that and give on the word to Vincent.
Vincent van Dijk. Yeah, I'm originally from the Netherlands, but I'm living here in Denmark. Yeah, owner of my own little practice, helping as well large companies like airlines and mining companies, as well as a lot of smaller companies. And mostly in that practice of helping smaller companies, that's where I met Gilbert, and we discussed and we came to the risk model canvas. Apart from that, I have like my little website, securityscientist.net, which gets around like 5,000 readers each month on different topics from NIST to cybersecurity strategy to, yeah, just name it, anything cyber or risk related. And apart from that, I did my research at Antwerp Management School, and that's where I came up with the cybersecurity canvas, which kind of works in the same area as the risk model canvas as like a secondary part. Like risk model canvas very much on the risk, and mine is more connecting risk and organization to controls, either in the sense of privacy or in cyber. So yeah, that's what I've been doing these past few years. Okay. Wraps it up nicely.
Thank you, Vincent and Gilbert. And Alex.
Yeah, so my name is Alex Rodas, and I've been working with Amalie as an instructor, as she mentioned, at the University of Toronto. I can say that that I'm in operations and in IT. I've been looking after mostly engineering firms, mid-sized type of firms, their infrastructure, their operations, and when I sort of got a glance of this tool, I found it very, very appealing, because there's certain situations that we go through as IT directors or senior people managing risk. And when I saw this, it really appealed to me. That great concept that we're going to share with you this afternoon. But my background, just a little bit of my background, I love security. I love operations. Again, I've been an IT director. I've worn many hats over the years in terms of IT. And now, I'm broadening my scope and knowledge and privacy, hopefully a little bit more. And then obviously risk management. And that's a little bit about me.
Great. So thank you so much. We have a really great panel. So let's get right into it. Let's start with, what is this business model canvas? And I'm going to ask Gilbert to walk us through what we see here.
Yeah, business model canvas, as said earlier, defined by Professor Osterwalder in Switzerland in 2005. And a couple of years later, it was picked up by Patrick van der Pijl. He's a business strategist from living in and working in Amsterdam. And he put this in books. And so there are several books about business models and business model shift and how to adapt your business model to new propositions. And that's interesting, because this move made the business model canvas really famous in the world. That's why most people know it, not because of the academic work of Osterwalder. What is it? It's something for discussing and coming up with new business models and propositions, and also describing your business. So it's like, okay, I want to go to something else with my department, or if you have a small company, with my small business, and you can describe the ist situation, and you can think about the sold situation. In the middle, it's always the proposition, and then to the right, about customers, the customer segments, and how to reach them, the relationship you have them, which channels you use. Channels is an interesting one for privacy, we will see later. On the other side, more the production activities, like what are your key activities, what are your resources, your partners, and especially if you outsource a lot, you have a lot of partners, but still keep an eye on it. And that's mostly where you discuss your information security risks. Below, cost structure, revenue streams globally, how to do it. And of course, you can always detail it in whatever reports or whatever. But this is very easy, because it's one A4 laying between you and management. and you can discuss everything. And they
And
understand it. This
yeah,
is
and this
business
is
language.
right. So this is something that I think privacy professionals and cybersecurity professionals, I would love if any client that I work with would have these little cards, you know, that showed this is business process A, B, C, D. Because for us, it's all about the data flows. It's all about, oh, you have these vendors. Oh my goodness, you know, like I need to
Exactly.
know, right?
Oh,
Sorry, the other, I just wanted to interject a little bit on this business model canvas. From a business perspective, and just looking at it from a business perspective, when you see this canvas, let's say you're in sales or you're in production, it helps you understand what the business is about. And it helps you from a business perspective, not an IT or information. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But it helps you understand what the business is all about, what value proposition, you know, what services they're trying to produce, or what benefit for the client or for the customer. It gives them a very, very clear understanding of what they need to do to be successful as a business. So as we move forward with the slides, we're going to see how this type of model that's been created for the business, now we can use that same model for risk. And that's where I think Gilbert and Vincent are experts, and we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So why risk model canvas? Now, we're dealing with the management is not always speaking risk language, neither IT language. So you need common ground. And then when I defined my own company, I used business model canvas as for my planning to start. And I thought, oh, you can use that as well. And I saw it also in several boardrooms with small, medium enterprises. So we use this as a common ground to discuss things. And it happens to easier to get management ownership, which is one of the difficult parts, for example, from ISO 27001, get management involvement. How do you do that? How? And also in ISACA World Forum Engage, you see so many questions on how do I communicate with C-level? It's very often that you see these questions, and this is, from my experience, it's helping very much. And Vincent, you had also experience with very large companies, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like before I used to work, I really come from the security landscape. So I've always been working for security providers. And one challenge that we had is, yeah, we did cybersecurity services, but how do you sell something like a cybersecurity service to another company? The biggest thing is what you want to figure out is why, or at least what management often wants to figure out, yeah, why would I want to buy your product? And they don't get that why unless you connect it in some way to the business. So if the business is about, and often a business is about making money, and let's say it's a logistic company, they're making money by their logistics. If you cannot relate it in some way to that logistic process, or then management cannot figure out why. And as a security provider, that's really easy. They wouldn't buy a product or service unless they could figure out why. So that's why we also started using it very quickly to really quickly get a consultancy grip on the company, see where it's going about, and connect the dots basically, because otherwise it's becomes very hard to sell anything.
Exactly. And I just want to add to that. The reality is that the business and technology, there's a language gap, right? Technology understands technology and business understands business, but in between there's not a good translator. And like this tool helps us translate what the risks are in the business and match it and align it to the business objectives. So to be honest with you, I've seen this before. I've seen it in the business. The business, when they look at risk, they just think about technology. But if we can tie it into the language that they understand, and they understand key partners, they understand what's the value proposition, they understand customers, they understand, market segments and, revenue streams and all of that. So what this tool does is it helps us simplify that communication with them using their own language. And that's the beauty of it. And that's what I really, really appreciate, because, I think we've all experienced that, we sit in a boardroom and it's very difficult to translate, what they need and technology that they need and not link it up to the business. So that's why
And
this
also
is
to
a really
convince
good tool.
them of some risks. And there are some risks that are not invented by the technology or inherent to the technology, but they are risks, as we are seeing now, with especially our European colleagues can talk about the different new digital acts that have come into play: Digital Services Act, Digital Markets Act. So the different markets are telling whoever wants to be part of that economy, these are our rules. And so when you look at revenue streams, when you look at relationships with customers or key partners, you also have to look at the rules of the market, and that may pose a risk for you, because you may have thought you're going to get some great revenue streams, but there could be some restrictions to that, for example. So this is a great, like Alex said, a great dialogue sheet where we can all talk about all the things that are on this sheet, but in, articulating our own language, if you like, but related directly to these key aspects.
We are experiencing Europe much more. I had several customers that had on the sheet as key partners outsourced development teams. And where were they situated? In Ukraine and Russia, Moldavia. And then the war broke out and we had really difficulties. You can imagine. For the Russians, can you trust them? They're on the wrong side for Europe. But also, can we pay them? No, because all financial transactions were blocked. And still,
or there could be disruptions because of being bombed. So.
Exactly. And so it's just to discuss, and this is very easily to understand. But also key activities, okay, can they continue? Oh, but this system we're talking about from IT, that is your key activity. For example, in a software company, it's about software development or it's about giving support. Oh, I can understand. Yeah, that's a very important activity. Could also be sales. This is a sales system. What if it's out? Yeah. And I always start with capturing the management gut feeling. I start with asking them, and okay, what risks are there if you're looking at this business description, and where can you not sleep? And there are several things, and then you have the discussion. And from that, I can always move to a more structured approach. And the framework is for completeness. And with this model, I managed to certify over 15 companies, the risk part in ISO 27001. So it works also on that part.
Yep.
Shall we continue?
Yep, absolutely. So Alex, do you want to start us off on the slide?
Yes. So again, it's very important for technology or risk management practitioners to focus on the business, right? It's not just about technology, but it's about solving business problems. And that when we look at this matrix, we have different columns and different types of initiatives. And there's going to be initiatives that when we review what the business requires or needs, that there are going to be some quick wins. So identifying those quick wins based on understanding the strategy of the business and understanding who are our stakeholders, who are those stakeholders that sort of push back, don't like change, that don't like security or stuff like that. Understanding who are those critics and winning them can really have some quick wins for us, as it mentions in these columns here, that focus of solving business issues. And then there's going to be some, as it shows here in the column, smart tactics. There's certain initiatives that we would take or take on because it's going to improve the business, and there's reasons why we would look at that. There's going to be other areas in which we can devise some key stakeholders that can become security champions or people that can advocate for us. When we look at solving business problems, we always have to think about governance as well too. It's not just technology, but there's going to be policies, principles that we have to make sure that that are in place in order to solve some of the risk, because we know that having good governance can enable good risk management. And there's obviously going to be technologies that can improve the business processes like RPAs or even AIs. But these are technologies that obviously have to be strategically placed or thought about properly, because they're going to introduce as well as additional risk, right? And there's new directions, as it mentions here, that will take a little bit more time to strategize, that will require more thought on how it's integrated with our systems, how it's integrated with operations and the culture. But it's something that has to be strategized, and one has to take a little bit more time. And with all of this, there's going to be compliance as well, compliance issues that have to be thought of before taking on some of these programs. So these are accelerators that can help the business solve some problems and situations, right? Any thoughts on that, guys, on Gilbert, Vincent?
I have a question on that, because this is great. But how do you see business value? Is security and privacy only something for compliance and a cost factor, or is it also possible to go over to business value?
I mean, that's a very good question, I think, because first of all, I mean, compliance in itself can be either business enabler or business value. I mean, you can take certain compliancy frameworks, and because you're the only one that has them, you can differentiate yourself from competitors, right? Like, I mean, the ISO one, for example, is an interesting one. If you're in a space where nobody really has the ISO, but ISO 27000, then, and you're the only one that has it, it's definitely in consideration also for customers when they're buying. Apart from that, also, you know, what you do with the ISO, what you do with the measures, it also makes you very often more efficient. If you go to the business model canvas, you can become more cost efficient. You can control your cost because you have the structure in place. You have the processes. You have less risk on weird costs because people are leaving or risk is happening. So you get more control. But the problem is, you know, very often it's not communicated in that way. Like we're talking about compliancy, we're talking about the framework, we talk about the processes, but we don't really talk individually. Why would you want the processes and the compliancy from a business perspective? What do I win? Why would I win customers if I do privacy of information security? And I think there are some great examples of companies that turned around. Like if you take Google, for example, that now has a lot of privacy controls baked in because customers started asking for it, right? So now you can, it will start sending reminders about to check your privacy controls. It gives you more control over individual points in privacy. And Google did this not just to be compliant, because most technical companies don't do it, but they have now have an advantage over other companies because they have these privacy controls.
Yeah, and then we see a lot of more startup companies that are actually posting on their website their privacy impact assessment, or how the vendors are they selected, they have been reviewed and certified against GDPR, and not there is a certification, but they show that in fact they have looked over those requirements, and they have now become part of how proud they are of their business because they have these things in place. So I think that, you know, there's definite companies have found definite advantages at talking about, look how good our compliance posture is. And I think that more and more that's going to become the norm. So let's just move forward with that. I wanted to, you know, we always talk about, but how do you do it? And, you know, what are the steps? Like, show me practically, what am I going to do? Right. So we came up with this new, and I put it in quotation marks because it's a shift. It's a shift to focus on the business objectives. Where do I see there's going to be a risk to a certain objective not going to be met or it's in jeopardy? Then we offer a solution through controls and compliance. So the first step is to understand the business process, which is through that Canvas model. The second step is to align the kind of understand the risk thresholds and the risk tolerance for it. Will that business model or parts of it fail or be in jeopardy? And kind of start to align your IT and cybersecurity controls and activities aimed towards those particular risk points or points of failure. And then, as Alex said, and he loved that, building this bridge to gain the business trust. So showing in business language on that canvas the risks that are actually generated through technology and through compliance, and how that addressing those risks are going to be conducive to business success, to the success in that area and the canvas. So I don't know if you guys, Vincent or Gilbert or Alex, you have any comments on that?
I have comments, yes.
Might have a very good one on it. I mean, this is of course one approach, right? Like you go from the business side to building the bridge. But I would also say, like, what is the other side of the story? Like, why would I do it as an IT professional? And it starts actually with the third one, because if you look at what you all need to do now at the moment, you have so many controls, so many frameworks, and so many tasks that you need to finish. You need some priority. And right now, you're just doing everything. And if you go take this process, right, and you start understanding the business, and you start understanding risk, and you connect them, you also removing some burden from yourself, because you don't need to do everything anymore, because you're prioritizing, which is also just a great feeling. So it's just, you can also take that building the bridge and turn it the other way around. You know, what do I have right now? How does it align with the current risk, and how does it align with the business? You can also start from point 3 and then work your way back to point 1. I don't think per se you have to start at point 1. But this definitely helps.
Yep. And on the other hand, also, I've never seen a company that did not have a risk management in place, but mostly not in cyber and privacy. Every company, if you go and ask the financial director, manager, he has financial risk management. And this is also where I started. That's step 2, align IT, cyber, privacy, risk tolerance with business. Go and ask business. They have often on the work floor, environmental things, risks, how you have to sit or how you have to work, that you don't get an accident on the work floor, but also financial risks. And if you know them, then make them similar. So your thresholds, and when you define your high, medium, and low level risks, do it in the same way that finance is talking about it and the other departments having risk already in place. Because if you do differently, then it's no use. High risk should be always high risk. If it's cyber, if it's financial, if it's labor related, it should be always the same.
I completely agree with that. And I think that's the gap sometimes we don't understand. You know, you have the enterprise risk management. It's always existed for the business. You'll have businesses that have been around for, in my case, our business has been around for 100 years and they've been successful. Now, you know, there's going to be businesses that have been around, but they haven't been looking at IT risk. You know, they haven't included it in the ERM, the enterprise risk management. So now the new trend is, you know, because the board members and the senior management are very interested because now it's impacting their bottom line. Now they need to include it. Now, what we're saying is, yes, we want to be part of the ERM. When you think about risk, make IT part of it, because we have systems that touch upon all that risk, credit risk, strategy risk, you know, market risk, a whole bunch of risks. So now we need to weasel ourselves in there and say, make it part of your enterprise risk. And we want to have that same language and use these bridges, these tools to make sure we communicate that. And they embrace it once they see the link between the business and IT and that relationship.
Alex, should we look a little bit at the chat, see what I see 4 possible questions or comments. Let's see if we want to address any of them before we move forward.
Sammy says, for this risk framework shown, there are also bottom-up risks or originating from IT to business process, not the other way around. Any comment on that? This is from Sammy. I think Sammy is one of our students, by the way, which is great. Any comments? So he's saying that it looks like it's from a bottom-up type of risk.
I can comment on that. You see, from bottom up, you see, but we will see that in a later slide. You have this 3 levels in business: strategic, tactical, and operating processes. Also risk, strategic risk, tactical risk, operational risk. You see it here, the prelate. And Sari, you are talking about operational risk. But the thing is that if you're talking with the management, then be careful that you talk with them about strategic risk, maybe about tactical risk, but not too much about operational risk, because then they will stop. They can't grab it, or it's out of their zone of what they are, their role in the business. So come together in especially, yeah, and that's what is risk model canvas is about. Talk about strategic risk and translate it with your IT department to operational and tactical risk.
There's one more question. Sorry, there's one more question here, and I think it ties into Sammy's question as well too. Can you talk about how to utilize this within a large enterprise? Is it possible to do at an enterprise level, or should it be done at the department business unit level? This question's from Ian.
Yeah, what I know from business model canvas is that they mostly do them on a business unit level, because it's about the proposition and it's not about the whole company. If you are several different business units offering different propositions, then it's very difficult to put that all together. What do you think, Vincent?
No, I was about to say, like, I did this, I worked with a little bit also with larger companies. And the thing what we did is we actually started off with doing it on, it depends a little bit on where you're at in a company. But if I had a customer where we would be in at a little bit higher level, management level, we would start with doing the business model conferences at the top level, really at the top. Then we would do it per business unit, and we would try to have like a meeting to organize it together. So then you have like, that's how you combine it. It's not always the case. Like sometimes when I came in as a consultant, let's say at the IT manager level, and maybe the IT manager didn't even have as much mandate as he should have, right? Then we would start first with his part. And we would say, okay, you have the IT department, see your IT department as a business. How is your IT department bringing value to the business? What are the services they're delivering? What is the business expecting on you? What is the cost? What's the profits, the revenue? So you can do both. Preferably start on top and move your way downward. If you cannot go do that, start your way downward and work your way up.
Yeah, and in
Yeah.
fact, this model actually mirrors the NIST risk management framework. So if you guys are familiar with risk, the audience, if you go to NIST 800 special publication 839, you will actually see a triangle that it says exactly that. There's a strategic level risk discussion, there's a mission business process layer in the middle, and then there's the operational layer. So and Vincent is very correct. It depends where you can have this conversation. But in order for you to have good success with any risk model, you have to have some good risk governance and attention at the top, at the strategic level. So Alex, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to add that it does have its advantages and different perspectives. I would say that there's no right answer or wrong answer. It depends. It depends of what you're looking at. You're looking at processes for a business. Are you looking at specifically a business unit, some of the risks? Or if you're looking at it from a top down, what's your focus? Is it on strategy? As it mentions here, from a business perspective, it's strategy. From an information, you're dealing with data and policies and IT as well. It depends, but I think it has its advantages. If you go from top bottom, you're going to see the whole organization, but you're not going to see the weeds. But you may want to see the weeds in order to improve some of the risks. So I would say it depends from my perspective.
I would summarize it that know as a compliance officer or risk officer, security officer, your position and with which stakeholder you are talking. So adapt to the stakeholder. Exactly. Are you talking with IT operation? Then talk IT operation. Are you talking on strategic business level? Then talk strategic business level. And have your models ready. And the two business models are here. And one is the COVID, it's on the right, and the 9 planes models of Rick Maas, which is very much Dutch development, and everybody in the Netherlands knows it, but outside the Netherlands, it's not well known. But it can help you to find your place and the language you have to talk at that moment.
I have to say, though, we do use it at the University of Toronto. It's in our slides. Students know it.
We love that the COVID stuff, and I think if you look at it, it's very principle driven, as it mentions there, right? If you look at the top, it says, the objectives are set. So it really starts from, setting goals and understanding how you're going to get to those goals. The next one, align with the ERM. Again, going back to our previous comments, it's important to align with that enterprise risk management system, value, balance, cost, and benefit. These are all principles that no matter what you do, if you're looking at it from bottom up, it's the same principles. We know that principles are more flexible than rules, right? So these are the principles that will help us guide, separate strategy and operations, as well as the slide mentions.
It's also very nice what you mentioned is the word alignment. And that's what you see here, because COBIT's theory basically is you generate value through alignment. Right. And that's what you see here. Like all the lines means the alignment, and you can do your business strategy or your risk management strategy very well. You can do it at top level, but if you cannot align it down or across different verticals, you won't generate the value. The more alignment you have across verticals and tiers, the more value you're generating.
I think you segued us perfectly into this next slide, because regardless of the bottom up approach or the top down approach, what you need to as a cybersecurity or IT professional or privacy professional, you have to keep them moving. So we're talking about Kaizen and Kanban, like a Kanban board. It's you have to make small incremental improvements. And you have to focus, like we saw in the 2 slides ago, don't build an entire privacy program for one simple business risk. It might not be simple, but you have to focus on the immediate gains, things that the business can incorporate that will not blow up their timeline or their budget, and keep the flow, keep it moving, right? And that's I guess the perception of us, cybersecurity and privacy has always been, we're going to stop the project, right? And that is, I think, the perception that we can change by using this risk model canvas.
I mean, it's also what I notice a lot. If I had a previous customer very recently, and we had exactly this case is, as security professionals or privacy professionals for that matter, it doesn't really matter, is we're very good at stacking on everything that needs to be done. We must do this, we must do that, we must do this because, and why are you not having this, and why are you not having that, and why are you not thinking about this? We need to stop and really focus on those few things that really matter most. Do those first, and then move to the next step. Do those next, move to the next step. So it's really, you need to be able to say no to a lot of things as well.
Yeah.
So it's time to put examples, eh?
Yes, it's time for what we promised, some examples.
Exactly. Well, we look at the example of Netflix. Somebody filled it in. It's very nicely done. Eh? So you see in the middle the value proposition, on-demand video, selection of content, original content, competitive price. And who is our market? It's large mass market consumers, end consumers. It's important also. And of course, you see also the other side, the key activities, cost and revenue streams. How are you doing this? Now, from this point, you can, for example, from privacy risks, you can very easily zoom into where it is exciting. For me, it's the customer. I mean, it's the self-service platform. Okay, so we are going and we have end user consumers. There's a lot of laws and regulations on that. What data are we going to have from them? Okay, financial data, we have to protect that. But also, and there you see in the key activities, now the key, where is it? I saw it, this
Algorithm?
This algorithm, where is the
Yeah,
algorithm?
it's resources. It's
Right
resources.
here. Yeah,
Resources, yes, the recommendation algorithm. Okay, if I read something like that, then my red flag is going out as privacy officer, especially with the new AI Act. Okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? What are you going to recommend? What not? Is it fair? Can you influence it yourself? How is consumer rights? Can you get the data out?
Right. Yeah, and again, to go with how the business is moving through this, the point is to chunk it down and partner up with the developers into small use cases. So instead of going, oh my God, you need an entire AI governance program, you need 300 policies and 600 controls. As you can see, Netflix will never take off from the ground. So when you look at what they're trying to do with the algorithms, the point is to ask the business, so what do you envision with this? What are some of the outcomes of your recommendation part of the algorithm, right? Go small.
And easily go in the discussion, can we do it with less data? Can we use it with less privacy data? Can you do it with anonymous data?
Yeah. And so, things like, do we need to save all this data all the time? Like, we give recommendations, but is there a more agile way for us to see what people like and just not, amass, huge amounts of data about each individual, right? Each subscriber.
And also the business impact of it, I would say, it's like, what if something goes wrong with that recommendation system, right? What's the
Mm.
impact? If there's a privacy issue, will you lose customers if that happens?
Right, right.
Yeah, will you reach national or international press? Yes, sure
Yeah.
you will.
Mhm.
Yeah, so then most likely it's going to have impact on your risk level, and maybe that's something you need to focus on.
So let's go to the next example in a completely
Ah.
different sector, healthcare. I
Completely
think
different.
completely
Now-
different, but I love this one, Gilbert.
Yeah,
You can
it is.
tell.
Before I became independent entrepreneur, I was security officer to a big hospital. So this is really from experience. A big hospital, of course, we deliver healthcare to patients. We organize healthcare, and our customers are patients, but also the other partners in integrated care. What is our key resource? What is really valuable and what do we need to do this? Are the electronic health records, the patient records, the personnel, the knowledge, and the organization. Now, within this patient's records, it's always difficult. I mean, what, for example, if they are not available? There is the whole reason for business continuity plans. How important is it? What is the outreach? And this is how I could discuss this with a high-level management from hospitals instead of, can you give me the maximal outage time for the several systems? Now this is like this. Okay, here we need money to keep it up and running, and also plans if it even with all the technical effort, it's not running. What to do? And so this is very good. The other thing is, for example, the integrity patient records. What if you have errors in it? Now, from my medical research period, I know that if people type in data, then the average error is 4%. That's why for surveys in research, in academic research, it's done twice. So you can lower the error. But so you can it's the certainty that there are errors in it. And will these errors lead to mistreatment? And mistreatment, we know, and we all know, in healthcare will lead to probably healthcare problems, maybe even death if you have wrong medication. So that's a very important one. And how are you keeping up? And here IT can help with having their logs and looking in how things are recorded and what is done to find anomalies and outliers and to give that back to the care organization. And please have a look, because we don't trust this record, this data. And so you can see that you can connect the things you do with the SIEM in your network. You can do also with the logs of, for example, such a huge health record system. And this is very interesting discussions between doctors who are leading a hospital and IT, and it was really the bridge we used for having this type of discussions. Are there questions about this?
Well, what I really liked, Gilbert, when you first explained this is how you actually basically spoke completely in business language. It's about patient records. The mission and the business of the hospital is to have accurate records so they can provide the best healthcare so they don't make mistakes. But in the background, you were translating confidentiality, integrity, availability, right? And possible some privacy controls. So the way we make conversation with them is basically translating what would help them to be successful in their business model with their mission. Their mission is to be a hospital that everyone relies upon, that does not make mistakes, that doesn't kill people or treat them with the wrong medication. And then we peel the layers and we say, well, and I think you were talking about maybe a related example where you said, you know, one of the things that we've discovered is that the people who did the data entry didn't really understand how the system works, so they needed extra training, so they know all of the buttons they need to click on, so they don't make mistakes, right? So, but these are like
Yes, I
so
did talk
subtle.
about that.
Yeah.
So in a system like a patient health record, you have open text fields, but also designated fields, like for blood pressure, upper pressure, under pressure. That's 2 values. But if people don't know how to use it, then you will see many of this recording in the open text fields, which means also that, for example, monitoring systems, like, okay, this patient has too high blood pressure and we need, we have to send the doctor. This is monitored. There is probably functionality in the system that immediately gives off an alarm signal, but it's not working if you put it in open text. So people need to be educated. And I always say also, this type of education about how to use your patient record, put that in your awareness program. Stop with only doing the phishing email test and say, okay, I have my compliance check, but put it in. This is what we are seeing. Go and discuss, align with, for example, the patient safety committee. We have this type of problems. Maybe it comes from wrong use. Is this wrongly entered? Is the data wrong? Is the information wrong? What are the lines? Are people not picking it up? And of course, we from IT, we can look at the back end of the thing, and they can use in the front end. It's the same if you are looking in a financial system for fraud, you do that with internal control. They look on the front end, and we from databases look on the back end. So this is what you can offer. And then you can get projects on your Kanban board that make sense and really improve your business.
I just want to add, I know we're creeping on time. One comment. So when we look at this canvas, from that word patient records, this conversation erupted, right? So you can just imagine speaking with the business stakeholders, and just putting that patient records will lead to other good conversations. That's all I just wanted to add.
Yes.
So that was excellent. And I think we were doing excellent on time too. So there you go, 2 excellent points for us today. We want to hear from our audience. Do you have any other questions? Do you want to give it a try? Use this, it's free. Like, you can use this, that there are actually filled out templates like that out there that you can use to get started. And to see if you can have a better conversation with your business by doing that. So any last questions or last thoughts from anyone?
Yes, I have an offer. If people start using this, and especially it's a type of competition, the best examples, just send them in. We will look at it for free, Vincent and I, and we offer that the best canvases and with their main risks. If you work it out, we will publish them also on the Risk Model Canvas site as additional examples. We are really looking forward to that. So if you like, you can get your feedback for free, and you can also be published, and we will, of course, refer to your content and your name.
Yeah, and you don't have to reveal more than a case like that. You don't have to say which organization, just the industry, and it'll be clear if you say patient that it's in the health type of setting. But yeah. I think it's a great safety net you have here. It's just us friends, Gilbert and Vincent will look at them and give you some feedback, and you can be a good good champ at your workplace, because you're starting to make friends with the business. We have one more comment. It was a very helpful session. Well, thank you so much for saying that. We hope so, because we promised he'll be practical.
Great.
Well, I want to thank our panelists. I think it was an excellent discussion and lots of takeaways from here. I will be doing a couple of these and send them over to Vincent and Gilbert to look over on some hypothetical AI cases. It's going to be very interesting. That I'm absolutely convinced that this methodology can be used in identifying risk for the business in adopting a different AI software as well.
Great. I'm just gonna go ahead.
Looking forward to it.
Great.
Well, just want to say thank you so much. If you guys want the slides or the video, let us know. Just send Alex or myself a text. If you're connected to Gilbert, send him, and he'll connect with us, and we will send everything their way as well.